deep in the heart of Texas.
We're in the business of winning.
Don't bet against me.
I don't bet anyway.
Lose your life.
Hello, everyone. Michael Jordan fans are the best, and today I have guest Nick, NMB Sports. How are you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
Wonderful. You just had a live stream going over my prior debate with the Universe Galaxy.
Yeah.
I thought it was very entertaining, especially since I was part of it.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was funny too.
But today we're going to be talking about Western Conference preview for this year, 2024 season. And again, if you're new to the channel, haven't seen myself or Nick at NMB Sports, go check out his channel. And if you like what you're seeing here, please subscribe to both of our channels in general. So speaking of which, what do you think is the most important offseason move that happened in the Western Conference that's kind of going to shape the landscape for the upcoming year?
When you say off-season move, do you mean just anything that has happened in the off-season, like, you know, Wembanyama, or are you specifically talking like a free agent or a trade maybe?
Just both. I mean, what's really changed the landscape of the Western Conference?
I mean, obviously, the Suns getting Bradley Beal, I think, is probably the easiest one in terms of that topic. Again, they're very top heavy. I mean, I know they also just signed, I hope I say this right, Yusuf Nurkic, is that right? Something of that nature, the center.
Yeah.
And they also got Grayson Allen, who's not a bad role player. He's a good antagonizer. So yeah, I mean, I think that probably getting Bradley Beal is very interesting. Again, they lost DeAndre Ayton, which I'm a bit of a fan of Ayton. I think he's just, people want him to be like a big, ugly, nasty, but he's just more finesse, which is fine. I like Ayton. I was hoping the Mavericks would get him, but the Suns getting Kevin Durant last year and then Bradley Beal this offseason, I think that's got to be the biggest move that's going to kind of see where this goes. It's going to be interesting to see it play out.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think that on paper is the biggest move. I think the biggest move that really took away from a team, which is really hot in the news right now, is the Damian Lillard trade going into the Bucks. Portland now only has Scoot Henderson, the rookie, highly touted. I believe he went second overall, if I'm not mistaken, and behind Wembanyama. So I think that is really the biggest move to shake up the Western Conference. I'm not really big on the whole Bradley Beal going to the Suns thing. I have to see it to believe it. There's been too many team-ups, too many super teams. But I agree on paper. That's the biggest thing. I think there's been some trades with the Grizzlies. I think Dylan Brooks went to the Rockets. So some of these teams that were doing really well may shape up a little differently. And we're going to be talking about our general previews for how the teams are going to line up next year. I mean, I don't know how specific you got with it, but just in general, if you don't have specific numbers, just who's going to make the playoffs play in and who's not.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with the Bradley Beal thing. I am not that high on it either. Just because, I don't know. Booker and Durant do seem like that's a dream matchup. They're almost, I don't want to say identical, but they are very similar with their styles or their shot selection, that kind of thing. And Bradley Beal's a lot of the same. Bradley Beal's a little bit more of a slasher, I guess. Goes, a little bit more, likes to go to the hole, I would say, for a guard. But other than that, yeah, I'm not very high on it. And they're very top-end heavy. They don't have a lot of depth. So, yeah, I'm kind of selling or fading that pick as well. I do have some lineups here, or some picks, I guess you could say, about who I think will finish where. I do. Go ahead.
Let's get in a little bit later.
Okay.
But yeah, but yeah, with that with the Suns team. But just since we're talking about that Suns team that's projected on paper being a powerhouse, the one thing that because they do have Eric Gordon, they do have Booker, they have Beal, they got Durant. And Eric Gordon, I know, recently he's kind of been like that kind of steady guy. He's been a starter. You know that he's going to give you points. But to me, when I look at that team, I just see a lot of offense, not a lot of depth. And I think that essentially it's just not going to work out. I think Bradley Beal's statistics are inflated due to it. Sorry, Ren Sports is in the chat. Welcome. And he said Rockets probably a 3 seed. Kind of threw me off.
He's messing with you.
Yeah, I think he is. But to the point of is that I think those Suns, I think Bradley Beal's statistics have been inflated for the longest time. Just being on a bad team, getting those numbers. So I think the trade in itself is a little overhyped. I never really got it with him. But maybe it'll be different. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a guy like with the high ceiling, but you would like a little more consistency out of him. And he's had some injury issues as well. So yeah, I think it was a little bit of a risky pickup considering the downside that he's getting paid almost $47 million. So I mean that's a lot of money for that kind of risk, in my opinion.
Absolutely. What's another team that you're excited to see? I know you mentioned getting new rookie acquisitions, a la the Spurs. How do you think the Spurs are going to do this year without giving a number to where they rank? And do you think they're going to do significantly better?
I don't know about how much in terms of significantly better. I mean, they were 22-60 last year, so like that's pretty bad. I understand, but when I was going through all these teams today, they were the one team that stuck out to me for one reason. Their salary cap situation is incredible, right? They are probably not done moving some pieces, some other guys. But the fact that, to me, the future looks very bright for the Spurs. If Victor Wembanyama hits, or at least is solid, productive, maybe he's not exactly the best guy in the draft 10 years from now, but again, if he can just be a good player, maybe second, third player on a championship team type caliber, if they make a right move or two, the future looks really bright for the Spurs, and I hate saying that, but I like their contract situation, the way their salary cap is set up, and I think they're probably not done, like I said, moving a few more guys here or there, so if Victor hits and they make one right move or two, I mean, they could be right back in it in another year or two. In terms of this year, I mean, getting over 30 wins would probably be nice. Going 500 would be amazing, right? But I would say let's shoot for over 30 wins and take it from there.
Believe it or not, I'm sure there says a little bit of bias involved. To give not an exact number yet, I think they're going to be a play-in team. I think they're going to do a lot better than what people think.
Really?
Well,
that's all. I guess you think Victor's the real deal, huh?
I hope so. But to speaking of that too, I'm surprised and I'm very happy to see. Now it's a preseason game. How good Chet Holmgren did against the Spurs, and particularly how the stats matched up between him and Wembanyama specifically. I mean, they both didn't really play that much. I think they both played under 20 minutes. But he had a better stat line than Wembanyama, and he had the injury. Granted, he's been around professionals at this point. Not that Wembanyama hasn't, but I'm talking specifically about the NBA. Yeah. And he's had time to rehab and kind of just work with them. So I was happy to see how well he did. But yeah, I think that the Spurs are going to do better. I think they're going to be able to get to the play-in.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I also think that Dallas is going to.
Yeah,
we're talking about it. The last Dallas preview.
Might
be a little Dallas hate from the past. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. We'll talk about some more teams going forward, but I think there's going to be some decent movement with a few teams going up and down. So, I mean, it's not crazy to think that they could be a play-in team if Victor is who we think he is, right? Just be a good rookie, right? Be up for Rookie of the Year or something. And yeah, I could see it. It's not impossible. Definitely not outside the realm of possibility at all.
What do you think about Oklahoma with Chet Holmgren coming back? Do you think that they're going to make it farther up in the line? Do you think they're actually going to make some noise this year?
I do. Of course, this is largely based on Chet staying healthy. I'm a big fan of Chet. I think he looks like I think he can be a top 20, top 30 player in a year or two. You know, I think he's got that amount of upside. So if he stays healthy, I think SGA, Shane Gilgeous-Alexander, he's probably like one of my top 5 favorite players. You know, if we don't count Luka, he's definitely in my top 5 of guys that I just really like. I like his game. I mean, all he's got to do is just get a little bit of that outside shot down. He's a good shooter. He's not a bad shooter, that's for sure. He's got that floater. He's quick. He's got the first step. I really like SGA. I'm really like in love with this guy in terms of what I think he's going to be in a year or two. What he already is. I think he's the real deal. I think people are sleeping on him a little bit. I think he might be one of the faces of the NBA in the next couple of years. I really do think that. But other than him, if Chet stays healthy, I do think. Let's see. They finished last year. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They finished the 9th seed technically. I do think they bump up a few spots in the West. I think I thought they probably should have done even a little better last year. You know, young, some injuries that kind of you expect them to take at least a step forward or two. So yeah, I would think 45, 48 wins, something like that for the Thunder, and that probably bumps them up a few spots than what they finished last year.
Yeah. I'm high on them, especially with Chet Holmgren's performance and how good he did last year before he got injured as well during the preseason games. So I actually, although I'm a Spurs fan and a Wembanyama fan, I think I could see Chet getting Rookie of the Year over everybody else.
Yeah, and I mean, Josh Giddey, I think he could be a good player as well. I don't know exactly what his ceiling is, but I definitely think he's starting worthy. You know, I think he's got that amount of ability at least. So he's playing behind, Shane a little bit. I know they play point guard, shooting guard, but Chet, Victor Oladipo, Giddey, they got a nice little squad, man. I really think SGA is just... What I like about him so much is I feel like he just creates so much momentum on offense in a way. I wouldn't say necessarily controls the pace like a Luka does, but it's like he has so much gravitas. Like when he moves and goes to the hole, it's like he's going in there with intent, and not saying he won't kick it out or whatever, but that first step, it is something else. Like I'm just a big fan of him, so I definitely think they'll probably finish 7, 8, maybe 6. So,
and especially what he's been doing. I forget how old he is, but I know he's young. What is this like? Isn't he still
25.
on his rookie contract, or he just got off his rookie contract?
I think so. Yeah, he's now making almost 33.5. So yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and he scored over 30 points per game, if I'm not mistaken. Like all I can see is upside with that guy. I'm excited to see what the Thunder do. It's gonna be something.
He's deceptively small too. He's 6'6", and it feels like he's 6'2" or something. You know, he's a little skinny, but you definitely sleep on his size. And the Thunder were also the team that picked up Davis Bertans' contract from the Mavs, and we'll see what he does too. I mean, Bertans, if he's just coming off the bench, healthy, shooting threes, he can be okay. But the only reason I'm laughing is because I'm looking at their contracts here, and he's already the second highest paid guy on their team after SGA. And
Mhm.
he just has, I think he has the worst contract in the league if he's not playing, I would have said that Duncan Robinson, I think it is, on the Heat had it, but at least he plays, right? Like, Bertans isn't even playing.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think about Portland? Obviously, Damian Lillard left, but they have Scoot Henderson coming in. Do you think he's going to be able to have a real shot at getting Rookie of the Year? Um, do you think that it's just going to, or is he just going to be an average rookie and they're just going to be heinous?
No, I think he's going to be good. Um, a lot of people said, like, if it wasn't for a guy like Victor, people would be a lot higher in terms of the hype with Scoot. So I definitely think he's good. 00 is what I wore whenever I was in Little League too, so I kind of like that. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if Scoot Henderson can be a surprise, right? They have DeAndre Ayton too. I mean, they're going to be bad, right? But who knows, right? DeAndre Ayton's still pretty young. He's 25. If Scoot can be something, Matisse Thybulle's 26. If he can develop a little more, it's not necessarily a bad little nucleus of guys. If you can, if they all those guys need to develop though for another year or two. And Ayton's been around for a while. Thybulle's kind of is what he is, 3-and-D kind of guy. If those guys all take that next step that you're hoping they do around this time, then don't like totally count Portland being bottom feeder. They're not going to make the playoffs, but it feels really bad because they lost Damian, so I think people are really just thinking they're going to be the worst team ever next year. I think it's just so recent. People are kind of being a little over dramatic about it. They could be an okay team. You never know.
Yeah. Welcome, Chris Renshaw. I just put in a question and answers. Who will win the Western Conference? I don't know if, yep, okay, there it is. But welcome, Chris Renshaw. He says, I think my Warriors will be in the top 3 in the West. We'll be talking about rankings sooner than later. We're just going through the teams, and we're going to talk about where we think some of these players are going to end up on some of these accolades lists, and then we'll get into the rankings. But welcome. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, like you said, they have that nucleus, and I think in the long term it might work out. Thybulle is a former 76ers guy. I think he got unfair handshake by Doc Rivers. He was, I believe, an all-first defensive team player for a couple years over in Philly, just a monster on defense. I feel like they just couldn't figure it out with how to actually get him into the rotation. But he was really, really springy, would get a lot of steals out of the passing lanes, and really was just an up-in-your-face defensive guy. So with that, I mean, I think that's enough, even just to be on the team, even if you do just get off the bench. Maybe that's kind of an old school way of thinking, but you can't stop elite defense, in my opinion. You can't really not like it. So I think they're going to do better than what a lot of people think, but I don't think they're going to be great or anything like that.
Yeah, they're also another team I think might make a few trades this year. I think, in my opinion, they're going to try and trade Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, or Malcolm Brogdon, one of those guys. I just think their contract, they might be able to get something for them and maybe just try and start over kind of thing. But I think they probably make a few more moves, much like the Spurs in the next year or two, trying to set them up for something, right? But that's down the road. But that's just what I see with their contracts. They're probably going to move a few of those guys, see what they can get in return. Draft picks, who knows?
So we talked about the Suns a little bit. How about, since Chris Renshaw came in here, how about the Golden State Warriors? Where do you see them going? What about some of their moves that they made to get Chris Paul, got rid of Jordan Poole? How do you think they're going to pan out? Chris Renshaw thinks it's going to be top 3 in the West.
Yeah, I got to say, I hate the Chris Paul move. I don't know what that was about, what they were thinking. Maybe they just thought, Chris Paul, we can have off the books shortly, and if we have to re-sign Poole and it doesn't work, it could, be like a huge burden or something. I don't know. But there's no way you give up a young, talented guy like that for a $31 million contract with Chris Paul when you have Steph Curry. Like, I don't get it. I thought it was really bad. I mean, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on it. That's all I'm going to say. I definitely don't think they got better because of it. So, I mean, I don't know. It's really hard because last year they finished 6th in the West. That's about where I got them again, probably. Maybe 5th. You know, you can never count out that core guys over in Golden State, but I got them kind of finishing right where they did last year. I don't think they got better. I don't think Chris Paul makes you better over Poole. That's just my opinion. Poole's going to give you a full season. Again, Paul's probably needing some minute management here and there. I don't know if they're going to start him and Curry, how that's going to work out. I know those guys will make it work, but what Poole brought to the table and what Paul brought to the table for what this team is and what it needs, I thought Poole filled a much bigger need for them than another shooting guard, essentially, a shooting point guard, right? So I got them about where they finished last year, maybe a spot up or down.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on them. I don't like that it seems like they're going to have Chris Paul starting, though. I think he would have been better as a second unit guy, kind of a glue guy to get those guys together. But what do I know? I don't think they should. I agree. I don't think they should have got rid of Jordan Poole. I heard rumors that they're going to be moving Klay Thompson to power forward, which, I mean, and now in today's NBA, that would work.
Yeah, who
but
knows,
at
right?
The same, he's 6'7", not the biggest guy in the world, but
good defender though. I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe they're like doing some kind of calculation over there, right?
I'm sure they are, but I'm not really sold on the whole them going to for him going to power forward either. It would just be the smallest of small ball at this point. But it is what it is. Draymond at center, another 6'7" guy. So and Andrew Wiggins at small forward. So Steph at shooting guard. Now Steph is a shooting guard in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. Ultimately, I think they'll be high on the list of the teams. I just give them the credit for that, having the experience. I know that they're shaking up a major part of integrating Chris Paul in there, especially in the starting lineup. So maybe he'll just be a starter on paper and just really play off the bench a lot. Who knows? But yeah. Michael, welcome. He says, my Lakers are going to go 50-32. LBJ does not need a statue. He always is one on defense. How do you think the Lakers are going to do?
I have probably been going back and forth on them the most out of all these teams. I'm not, there's like that rule with running backs, like once you hit 30, you hit a cliff and you kind of just are never the same for whatever reason. You got to think some point LeBron is just going to lose a step, right? Like, or a noticeable slowdown, right? You can tell he's lost a step, of course, but it still is NBA worthy, right? I'm still waiting for that moment or that couple game stretch or that half a season where we're like, he's finally on the downhill, like the downslope, on the quick downslope, right? And I think he played 52 games last year, something like that. So it already is getting there a little bit, right? And I don't know, man. D'Angelo Russell hasn't been the guy that they thought he would be. Austin Reeves looks awesome. Yes, I will give them that. Again, can he mature fast enough to, make them a contender or overachieve? I don't know. Like, I don't know if Austin Reeves is the best ball handler. Like, I think he's more of a I need the ball in motion or it's a quick decision kind of thing. That's just, other than that, like he seems the intangibles are off the charts, right? With him, and he's got I think a little bit of clutchness in him. He likes the moment, which is always good. They got Christian Wood from Dallas, or signed him in free agency from Dallas last year. I don't think Christian Wood really makes him that much better either. He's not a good defender. He'll give you 10 rebounds if you give him 40 minutes. Is that worth it? He can stretch the floor. That's nice, but so can Anthony Davis, right? I think the Lakers slip a little bit. That's my opinion. I think they overachieved last year. They got 7th. I probably think they slipped to 8th or 9th. I don't think... I mean, the only way I see it, right, LeBron's got to stay healthy, number one, to have a good record at the end of the year. He can't just stay healthy. He's also got to be healthy, right? 100%. Can't be, nagging injuries or anything like that. Davis, same thing. He could go out any day too. You need Reeves to take a huge step forward, right? Too many things have to fall in line for them to get better. I think they slip a spot or two, and I think this is the year LeBron, I think he just doesn't look the same kind of thing. That's just my opinion. I think he felt it a little bit last year. That's just my 2 cents. As he looked frustrated at times, things like that. I think it doesn't get any better. That's just my 2 cents. I think they slip a spot or two. Play-in team or something, maybe.
Yeah, I'm outside of the injuries, because I think that's what really got them last year was the injuries with Davis and LeBron particularly. So barring that, let's say that they're generally healthy and they, God willing, play around 65 games. I think they'll be a legit playoff team, just to give some foreshadowing to my picks. Now, but that is a concern, all the injuries, because it's definitely been happening a lot. And LeBron specifically is pushing 40 at this point. So it just naturally happens. No matter what you put in your body.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like a healthy LeBron and Davis for 82 games, that's a top 5 Western Conference team, I would say. If they play legit 40 minutes a game, 82 games. Oh, yeah, easy. Top 5 Western Conference team. I just don't think you're going to get that.
Yeah. Michael asked, what are Spurs going to do? We already covered it. Essentially, I'm higher on them than Nick, and we're going to be giving our general rankings, if not specific rankings, of where teams will be outside the playoffs, in the play-in, or in the playoffs. And we'll talk about how far they're going to go in the playoffs, too. How about the Nuggets? How about the defending champs? Are you high on them?
Yeah, so I probably think they do what they did last year. Not to give my rankings away, but I think the Nuggets repeat as the best team in the West. They just seem... They're just a good basketball team, right? Like, what else can you say other than that? They have the perfect guy, too. Murray came into his own last year. Again, I think he's finally over that injury, as much as he probably ever will be, right? I got them winning the West again. They just play a really good brand of ball offensively. I think they can manufacture points. They can exploit mismatches. I'm a big fan of Gordon. Gordon and Jokic might be the best big man pairing or duo, like fun to watch, that I've seen in a while. When you really watch them, when Jokic gets in that high post and Gordon gets some kind of mismatch on some little guy on a back screen or something like that, it's really fun to watch those two guys playing so close to the rim with each other. I don't know what else to say about Denver than what everyone already knows. Like, I think they are probably the best team in the league. Milwaukee will have something to say about that this year. Kind of still waiting for the Celtics to put it together, right, for a playoff run. But we'll see what the Suns can do with Durant. You can't count them out. But I think they are the best team in the league right now. It might, who knows if Damian Lillard and Giannis can gel well enough to get all the way to the finals. I'm sure they'll make the playoffs, right? But yeah, I got Denver as the best team right now on paper heading into the year. I got them best team in the Western Conference, obviously. So, two-time MVP. They looked amazing last year. I don't have much else to say about it.
Tim Nick, welcome Tim Nick. You said you should type NBA in the video title. I did that. That's a good point. So that everyone notices the topic more quick. Hey, how you doing, Tim? Michael says the Mavs are going to win 53 games. So we did a whole special.
That's about where we
on the
had
Mavs.
them, yeah.
We did a whole special on the Mavs. I am not as high as Nick on them. I don't think we should spend a lot of time on it since there's a whole show on it that we spent about an hour and a half on.
Yeah.
But I am not as high as Nick, and if you want to see our in-depth analysis, go check out the show. But let's just talk about them, where we placed them at the end and how far they get in the playoffs. And if there's a player on there that you would say is the MVP of the Western Conference, because apparently they do that nowadays. Anyway, another team before we get into the fun stuff. The LA Clippers. What do you think about them? Do you think that they're going to actually be able to get over their injury issues with Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard?
Yeah, so this is one of the teams I got slipping. I think they massively overachieved last year. I just think, if you think they got better, I don't see I love Kawhi Leonard. I think for a while there, he was like the best two-way player that we had seen in a while. I mean, up there with some of the best, right, for just a very short window. But I don't see his minutes. The league, you heard about the league trying to introduce, you have to let them know in advance, or you can't rest 2-star players, however they define that, on the same night. Yeah. So this probably affects the Clippers the most. Again, you have to have 2 stars, right? So maybe the Lakers, the Warriors, Milwaukee or something like that. Maybe that would affect them. But in terms of the guys who actually use the management of the minutes the most, it's the Clippers. I don't think Kawhi's physical situation, his health, is gonna get any better, right? Do you see Kawhi maybe over the next 5 years putting together 3 full seasons or something, playing, let's just say 65 plus games? I don't, so I don't see that getting any better. Paul George is a year older. I think Paul George is also underrated in terms of some of the better players in the league sometimes. I know they got Russell Westbrook, but that's what it all comes down to, is if you think Russell Westbrook is going to be the guy that is going to, they were 5th last year, I think. Yeah, they finished 5th. That's I still couldn't believe. I had to look at that 3 times before I believed it. I forgot that they finished 5th, right? But to think that Russell Westbrook is going to be the difference to make you be better or stay the same, I just don't see it. I like Bones Highland. They got him last year. I like him a lot as a point guard, but I just don't see it, man. I can't see it. I like Batum. I think Batum's a good two-way player. Marcus Morris Sr., but I don't see it. I got them probably missing the playoffs, to be honest, or around that 8, 9, 10 area at best, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not super high on them either. I do have to say that it's likely due to recency bias, just of how many times they've been injured, how many times they've just flopped in the playoffs. It's kind of the same thing with the Sixers, even though they're my team. I'm just kind of over it. I mean, I don't really trust it until I see it at this point. On paper, yeah, they got an amazing team. They got to stop getting injured, and they got to just put it together. And I really am not going to believe it till I see it. I can see them. I'm going to get my rankings later. But I won't think it's crazy for them to be a playoff team. I just don't think that they're going to actually be able to knit everything together to have a successful season, a real successful season where they make a deep playoff run. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I could see them making the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be 5th again. They way overachieved last year. Then again, I mean, it was a real tight race, right? Only less than 10 games separated, 9th from 1st, right? Which is pretty crazy, but yeah, so I just don't see them being 5th. I think they overachieved. It's kind of like this paradox with Kawhi. If you want to ask me where I think they're going to place in the Western Conference, you need Kawhi to play a good amount of games to be 5th again. I don't think it's going to happen. You could make the playoffs, but then also it's if you do that, your ranking will be worse. You're hoping, I guess, to save him for the playoffs, and he just turns it on, which isn't impossible for him, but it's just a tough situation with him. It sucks. I don't think he's doing it right. I think he's trying to make the smartest decisions possible for him and push. I'm sure he's physically going as hard as he thinks he can. It sucks he gets all that flack, but at this point, it kind of just is what it is. It's baked into the cake. He's going to miss a lot of games, and I don't think they finish fifth again. I think they probably drop down to like 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael says Kawhi should retire if he can't play. Yeah, that's a novel idea.
That or go come off the bench somewhere, play 15 minutes a night.
All right, we'll do a couple more teams. We did most of them. I guess we should do all of them. Screw it. What about the Kings? What do you think about the Kings?
Love the Kings. They're really fun to watch. I like to bet on sports. For those of you who probably obviously know, I bet on the Kings a lot last year. I feel like I did pretty good against the spread with them. Good team. I like, again, another team where they have a good, solid basketball team, and I largely like their salary cap situation. They kind of they pay their better players, and after that, a lot of these guys who produce off the bench and all around them are just solid contracts. They picked up JaVale McGee from the Mavs. They're going to eat essentially his contract for us, which is fine. I was kind of hoping McGee could be a little more in Dallas, but just didn't quite fit into the system, or kid didn't see it. So, and he was a little banged up. So, I like them. I mean, Fox, Sabonis, and Barnes as a three-headed monster, I think is awesome. Barnes has really stepped it up these last few years. Sucks he couldn't do it on Dallas when he was with us. We were that first team that kind of took a chance on him after he did so well in Golden State for a little bit, and it didn't quite pan out. But it's good to see him have a little bit of a resurgence. De'Aaron Fox is 25, Sabonis is 27. They finished third last year in the West. I probably got them third or fourth again. I do think they overachieved, but I think they're that good. I could see them maybe falling as far as 5 or 6, but I think they're obviously a play-in team. I like their three-headed monster that they got going and the guys around them. I like the pace. They play with a lot of energy. They're definitely fun to watch. So, yeah, I mean, I got them. I just don't think they're going to get third again. That just seems like such a high seeding. I probably got them like around 5, 6, something like that. I mean, I have my rankings, but I'll give them out officially at the end.
They go to the chat real fast. Tim Next says, by the way, what are the major roster changes? I did not watch that at all. Only thing I saw is a little to the Bucks story. Any more important roster changes? We really went over the rookie acquisitions and then some of the other people, essentially those. I mean, I think really the most important one was the Lillard one. There were minor ones here and there. The Grizzlies, they had Dylan Brooks go to Houston, things of that nature. But from what I can recall off the top of my head, I don't think there was any really earth-shattering moves outside of the ones that happened, months ago. They had the Beal go to the Suns. We talked about that a bit. Chris Paul going to the Warriors. But those aren't really relatively new news. So if you were interested in that stuff, that we talked about that too. But really of the recent things, we talked about Damian Lillard. Michael says playoff P was funny.
Playoff P. What?
Playoff P. The
what is that?
I think it playoff Paul George.
I guess I don't know it. I have to look it up.
Yeah. It's I think it's a story. So I really didn't follow up with it that much, other than essentially like he was hyped up to do better in the playoffs and then he just flopped. Like that's the long and short of it. Like I don't remember anything specific with it.
Yeah.
They were hyping him up, and then he just did absolutely garbage. And yeah, like they were talking about how Kawhi was on the bench, and he's like, well, if I get injured, there's no way we're going to win. But I don't really know the in-depth stuff with it other than that playoff P was just garbage. Yeah, for them, the Kings, like you said, I think in a phrase, I think they overachieved. A lot of those guys, I'm not saying that they're bad, De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis. It's just to the point of I think 3 is too high. I think it was the situation and the timing and circumstance of the rest of the conference. Not to say that they're a bad team. I don't they're going to make at the very least a play-in. They're not going to get out of the playoffs barring injury, but still, I think 3 was just a massive overachievement, what they probably should have been. New Orleans. How about New Orleans?
Man, definitely last year was probably the biggest what if. If I remember right, they started out really good. They were first for a while, I think. And then, of course, Zion goes down. They have a few injuries. So we'll see. McCollum's been trying to do the best he could down there. Is that right? He was with them last year. Was he with Portland?
No, he went there.
Yeah, he went there. He stepped up last year pretty good. Brandon Ingram, I'm a fan of. He's fun to watch. They have sort of like these guys who are close to like that tier 2, tier 3 guy, and I feel like they're missing that star. McCollum is good. I really like him. I just don't know if he can be your guy, your number one guy. Zion, I don't trust to stay healthy at this point. I think they do maybe a spot or two better than they did last year. But barring Zion being healthy, it's kind of like LeBron James. Like, if I know I'm getting that healthy Zion, he's all the sort of energy burst they need to make that team really click and go. And if he's healthy and he's running up and down the court, man, they're a scary team. They can be arguably the best in the league. I mean, that's how good they were for stretches. And if he's not in there doing that, and one other guy gets nicked up or something, it's just hard to put any faith in them, considering Zion's the main guy you have to have faith in. I've seen, there's always the offseason. Look how he's so swole. Look how in shape he is. Luka, they've done this the past years with Luka as well. And from what I saw, he had kind of put on some muscle from his on his upper body, and I was like, no, that might actually make it worse. You might actually be heavier now, So unfortunately, I think they're going to have another disappointing season next year. I think they have the talent to be top 6 in the West, but I think they at best are at that bottom of the playoff team scenario again, like they were last year. So best case scenario, 6 or 5. If they stay healthy all the way through the year, maybe better. But I got them more like around that 9, 10, 11 rank.
Yeah, I'm not really, like you said, in stretches they were great. But Zion has not been able to stay on the court. I don't trust it, just plainly. He missed an entire year, and then he came back and played 20 games. And then I don't trust that he could stay on the court. So for me, I'm not high on them. Yes, when they're all together and it's all clicking, it's great. It has to happen, though, and that's the bottom line. It's kind of the similar thing with the Lakers, except the Lakers actually play season. None of those guys have missed a whole season while they've been on the Lakers, and they've missed a lot of games, but still, not high on New Orleans. I'll let you know where I put them later. How about the epically bearded Dylan's team of the Timberwolves?
Oh, Minnesota. Yeah, I got them probably as one of the teams that's slipping a little bit next year. Again, they're such a hard team to gauge because if they can play their brand of ball with Rudy and Karl Anthony Towns controlling sort of the center or, controlling the game of the flow like those two big guys can, in terms of having, Rudy's around the basket and Anthony's kind of floating around. They can definitely put some things together, look nice at times. Unfortunately, I think Towns as your best player can hurt or help you. A lot of times as like the best player, really your job is to just not hurt the team a lot. That's as terms of being a star. That's one thing you probably do is you don't commit a lot of silly plays. You get decent shots up, pass to the open man, right? I don't really believe in Karl Anthony Towns to be able to do everything like that on a consistent basis and have enough players or talent around him to pick up the slack from time to time. Gobert and Towns, I don't think in a playoff scenario, I think they're easy to game plan for in a way, if that makes sense. I think there's a lot of things you can do defensively with this team to make them struggle. So I have them falling down a few spots, missing the play-in or the playoffs altogether next year. Rudy Gobert is not worth that price tag either. I can't believe what they gave up for him.
So with that, yeah, that trade was not a good trade, in my opinion. I think that's one of the worst trades I've ever seen. I can't really think of another trade worse than that, to be frank. But I'm not that low on them. I don't think they're going to go far in the playoffs, and I'll let you know where I put them later. But I think on paper that team is a very good team. And maybe it's just because they weren't able to just put it together. I don't know if the management just looked at them on paper and said, oh, well, we can just make it work. And just their play together doesn't really fit together, or if it's just coaching in general, if they just don't know how to make it work. Because you got Cat, you got Gobert, you got Conley, you got Edwards, amongst others, and that team on paper looks really good. So I like to think that they're going to do better, that they're going to, actually make some version of the playoffs.
Yeah,
but maybe not.
I really like Mike Conley as a player too, but he's 35 now. He's, of course, been injured on and off the last few years. A big part of that is him staying healthy. Again, I just feel like come playoff time, Rudy is a liability in today's NBA. They are just going to expose that all game, right? I mean, that's just my opinion. Eventually, they're going to run into a team who can just make him worthless almost, right? And that's why I largely don't think he's worth a price tag. But he's a great player, really. But come playoff time, I just feel like this team has a lot of mismatches, in my opinion. I don't think Towns is like hard to game plan for. Same with Gobert. I just think at best they're one and done in terms of the playoffs. I do like them on paper. I see what you're saying. I just don't like the way they play. Maybe that's a coaching thing, a front office thing, more than being on the players sometimes. But I just don't like the style they play. There seems to be no flow to it. It's very stop and go sometimes. So I think that bites them in the butt in the end.
Yeah, I absolutely get what you're saying with that. Tim says, right, I just noticed that Nurkic, 7-foot center, was traded to the Suns. That could be a good trade for the Suns. They seem to lack a tall man. Yep, we were talking about that too. I forgot to bring that up. But yeah, that they needed it after getting rid of Ayton. So, but it is what it is. Yeah, Timberwolves, I hope they do well. I'm not super high on them either. How about Ren's sports favorite team, who he says is going to be in the third seed, the Houston Rockets?
Yeah, my hometown Houston Rockets. They're look, sometimes you have to keep this stuff in context, right? Like the Rockets are in a rebuild mode, right? So you have to say, let's look at the rebuild and how it's going. I was liking it until this past offseason. Brooks and Fred VanVleet. I think VanVleet's only on a 1 or 2 year, so that's nice. I think it's like 1 with an optional 2, something like that. It's like 2 years. So okay, you only have him for a short time. That's a little understandable. And I think they paid Dillon Brooks 4 years, 22, 23 million, something like that. Unless your goal or your idea here is that we're still a couple years away. We'll see what we can do with Van Fleet. Maybe we can trade him, but his contract's off the books in a few years, right? Maybe some of these guys have matured. Maybe we make the playoffs. Like, as a play-in seed, we overachieve, something like that. I don't think that'll happen, but I don't think they're going to be like bottom 3 again. I think Van Fleet and Dillon Brooks do bring some veteran stability, though. I will say that. I think Brooks' attitude is good to bring to a young team like that. A lot of people don't like him, but I mean, it's nice to have a guy on your team like that who sort of takes the distraction away from you a little bit, is willing to get in the mud with the other team, right? But I don't like the overall contracts unless this is a play for 2 years from now and you've got some things in mind you're eyeballing. Then I can see it making sense. It's not Van Fleet's on a short contract, so it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Dillon Brooks, maybe 4 years, $22 million. It's too much, but it's not the worst contract, right? He will produce, he will play, he will give you good energy and minutes. He is a starter, more than likely, I think. Maybe not. They also got Jalen Green, who's coming up. He looks good. Kevin Porter Jr. looks good. They got their big man that I love. It's either Sagoon or Seguin. I think it's Sagoon, I think. He's one of the most agile, actual true centers in the league. So I think he fits well with this team. I really like him. I wish the Mavs had him. They also got Reggie Bullock from the Mavs, who we kind of replaced with Grant Williams, essentially. But this team is not as bad as I first thought when I started going through them. I actually like this roster. It's not the worst roster. One of the things I look for in rosters, right, is what is your salary cap potential a few years from now? How's it looking? The Spurs look good. I think the Rockets look good too. And then I like to see a mix. Like, do you have veteran and young? Do you have some defensive guys and offensive guys, right? I like the Rockets mix right now. There's a lot of things they could do with it. A lot of guys can do a lot of things. They've got veterans. They've got young guys. They've got a dirty guy or a hard-nosed guy in Dillon Brooks. They've got a nice tough point guard in Van Fleet. Jalen Green looks to be pretty explosive. They're like the Spurs. They are a couple moves away to, who knows, we could see what happens with this team. Green needs to take a next step, not commit so many turnovers, take better shots, be a better leader, make better decisions. Don't just blow and go to the hole 100 miles an hour all the time. He does that a lot, which is okay as a young guy. He'll learn. But I think this is an underrated roster. I think people are sleeping on the Rockets a little bit. It's up to Van Fleet. If Van Fleet can lead them and be a good leader and Brooks plays his role, they could be a pretty good team. I think a playoff team maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. Just, again, foreshadowing, since we've kind of been just, going all over the place with this. But, yeah, I agree with the point that I think there are some good pieces in there that if they're able to put the team together in the future could propel them to go farther, particularly the veteran leadership of Van Fleet. Especially as a point guard, being able to drive them and just orchestrate an offense. And just to have, and just because he was undrafted, having to work himself up there, I imagine that he's probably got one of the better attitudes in the NBA of how to work hard. Like you said with Dillon Brooks, it's always nice to have that kind of guy on your team too, but in short, I just don't think they're quite there yet. They got other young pieces like you were talking about, but I don't think they're there.
Yeah, they're definitely a couple years away, and they will more than likely miss the playoffs. But I think they will have a better record, and I think they will play better against better teams than what people think. Is kind of what I'm looking for. Is, are you guys still 15-point underdogs when I go to look at the line in the morning, or is it like Denver versus Houston 8-point spread, something like that. That's kind of what I'm looking for, is just an elevated overall rise in the play and the talent. Doesn't mean it necessarily show up in the win-loss column so much, and you probably aren't going to overachieve by a lot or anything, but I expect them just to be a much tougher team overall.
Yeah. I think in the general concept, I agree with that. For the chat, Ayton was also pretty good for the Suns. Can Nurkic improve the Suns? Hard to say. Michael says Jalen Green and the other young Rockets only care about highlights, not winning. Tim Nick says, by the way, how does NNB Sports have so much knowledge about the NBA? Wow, with the wow emoji.
Honestly, you want to know what it is? I just like the Mavericks so much, like that. I just follow. It just makes me follow everything else because you're like, who could we trade for? Who could we do this? Or it kind of just spirals out of control from there.
That's kind of what I'm excited for fantasy basketball, because I played fantasy basketball probably about 5 or 6 years straight. Got into the weeds of everything. I like 2K. I played a lot of the general manager. Going through a season as a
Yeah, I love doing that, dude. I do that on Madden all the time.
So I learned a lot through those two things, particularly, let alone just following the news and watching the games too. But to be frank, I haven't done it in a while. For the people that don't know, I was in Europe for a year last year. Can't really watch basketball when you're on the other side of the time zones, amongst other obligations I've had where I haven't been able to watch or pay attention to basketball that much. But and let alone playing video games. I stopped playing 2K a couple of years ago because I felt like it was just taking my money. So for all you 2K fans, I was a diehard fan and gave it up for a couple of years. Bought it again this year and kind of regret buying it again, but whatever. It is what it is. The next team, and there's 2 more teams left. So I will, outside of not talking about the Mavs.
Yeah, we don't have to do the Mavs. That's fine.
The Utah Jazz. What about the Utah Jazz? What do you think about them?
Utah Jazz, one of my improved teams, a team I like that I think people are sleeping on a little bit. I'm a huge Jordan Clarkson fan. I like the way he plays. Again, Colin Sexton. I like Markkanen, who does. If you don't like Markkanen, I'm not sure what NBA you're watching, but he's fun to watch. Kelly Olynyk, I think it is, who originally came over from Houston, I think. Or that might be the guy on Boston. I might have got that wrong, actually. Scratch that.
Olynyk was on the Heat and Boston. He's been all over the place.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, a good team. They're definitely one of my sleeper teams. Like, if I had to pick a dark horse team, it'd be them and OKC, I think. And the Mavs in there, just because I think the Mavs will just have a bit of a rebound back, right? But these are one of my dark horse teams. I love watching this team play. The Utah might be one of my top 3 favorite teams to watch play. They're really gritty. They play, 48 minutes. They're one of those teams, like energy all over the court. They're up and down a lot, which can hurt or help them, right? But I've got them overachieving from where they were last year by a position or 2. Again, I think Clarkson is just one of those guys who just stirs the drink really well. He's like a poor man's SGA, and that's saying a lot coming from me, right? But I think he's one of those guys, like when he goes to the hole, when he moves, everyone is watching him, right? He's definitely explosive. He's got that first quick step. He's very sly. Everyone remembers the dunk that he had. He's had a few good dunks at this point now, but so he is explosive. He is athletic. And yeah, I really like this team. I think they probably bump up a few spots from last year, and I love watching this team play.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not very high on them. So I kind of feel like they're like in the Rockets position. They got a lot of trade value out of that Gobert trade. And I could see them getting really good in the next couple of years. And they got those young pieces like you talked about. I really think they're a move away from being a move away, as they say, or whatever.
Yeah.
But they, if they do the right things, they could definitely be in the mix. I just hope they do, for their sake. I'm not really specifically a fan of theirs, but I've never, had any animosity towards them or anything like that. But I'm not super high on them. But yeah, Markkanen, I believe he played for Chicago before, had a really big, reputation over there as a scorer. And amongst the other guys you were talking about. They got a lot of young guys there, so I hope it works out. And the last team, well, let me go to the chat real fast. Tim Nick says, "What video game are you talking about again? Is it a great game? I was not gaming the last year, so not much clue about new games. My favorite game was Super Street Fighter." Yeah, I like Street Fighter. Street Fighter is a good game. I played a couple of those recently, but I'm talking about NBA 2K. It's a basketball simulation video game. They have an arcade style to it too, but it's usually played as a simulation game. And it's a money grab game. I don't particularly recommend it, but it's really monopolized the basketball video game market for the most part. So, the last team, the Memphis Grizzlies. What do you think about these guys?
This is one of my probably biggest movers or biggest surprise teams. Obviously, John Morant got a suspension. That's a big reason why. I thought he was going to get half a year, to be honest with you. I think they're lucky. He only got 20, 30 games or something like that. I think they
25.
they should be thanking the basketball gods. They only got 25. When I saw the second video, I was like, half a season, easy. Not even, no second thought. I thought minimum half a year, 41 games. So they're lucky with 25. Again, 25 games of losing arguably, top 10 player in the league, right? If not better. You would think you probably lose at least 10 of those games. So if that puts them at that, let's say those 25 games, they just as good as they were last year. That puts them at 41-41. That puts them at 500, and that's good enough essentially to be ninth in the West. And I might even have them a little lower than that, to be honest with you. So they finished second last year in the West. I have them possibly missing the playoffs. They might be this year's Dallas Mavericks, is how I'll put it. So I'm low on Memphis by a lot this year, probably even more than most, even with the suspension.
Yeah, I agree with that. I am obviously the suspension is going to be a big deal, so the rest of the team has to rally. A lot of the time, it doesn't happen. So I'm really got a mixed bag of it. I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but I know where I'm going to place them in my playoff picture. But I could see it going both ways. If they rally, then they'll have a good seed or I don't say a great seed, but they'll be out of the play-in and make the playoffs. If not, they might not even make the play-in because the West is a tough conference. Michael says NBA 2K16 was the last 2K I loved. I had a center that was maxed out on the playmaking stat. And I used to play the Rec, and I played with a few of my buddies. And
I remember that, yeah.
People thought that I was like a hacker because my 7'3" center was playing point guard because I by far had the best playmaking stats, and it used to just slot you automatically to a position. So
the Dirk build, if you will, yeah.
All right, so let's get into the some of the player accolades or what you think about players individually before we get into playoff rankings and playoff success. So who do you think is going to be the best player in the West, the biggest change to how successful, or either way, good or bad, the biggest change to a player's production, and then the best defensive player?
So for best player in the West, I have it between SGA and Dirk, and mainly, sorry, not Dirk, Luka. My bad. I had Dirk on the brain. Yeah, Luka and SGA. I got them as statistically the best two players coming out of the West this year. Jokic is in there. He's in there as well. But sometimes when people ask me this, like the preseason, I like to kind of play a law of averages a little bit. Luka's been preseason betting odds, and even when he finishes, right, he's been top 5, top 3 in the MVP, both before the season and even at the end the last couple years, 2-3 years. So I have a feeling, it could be this year he busts through. The Mavs have a better record with Kyrie or something. Things could align that the Mavs have a good record. He could average a triple-double, right, still. So I'm kind of just putting the law of averages that he breaks through finally. So he's one. And then I think SGA is... I have Oklahoma City higher than most at my end of the season review, and that's also why I have SGA as my second. Those are kind of two of my picks that are fun to talk about. Obviously, Jokic is, the best player in the West, right? But to be a little different and go against the grain, I'm going to say, Luka is even not really that against the grain, right? But I think SGA will be in the top three for best players in the West, maybe is the better declaration to make. But I really think that highly of SGA. I think he's going to be first or second team All-NBA for the next 10 years.
Yeah, for me, I have to say, I got to say Jokic. I think he specifically has a chip on his shoulder due to not winning MVP last year. And although I'm a Sixers fan and an Embiid fan, there's no way he should have won that award. It was Jokic's by far, in my opinion.
I agree. He should have been 3-time.
Yep. And I think he's going to have a chip in the shoulder individually. I think it's going to help drive them to get back far into the playoffs, which I'll say where later. Those other guys, I think, are going to be great. And, you can't – they might get it. I just think Jokic, for those, I guess, if you want to call them personal reasons, is going to drive him there. What about most improved or most drastically regressed or regressive player, or however you want to say it?
Regressed player. Oh, man.
Or improved. Either way.
I mean, I guess it's crazy. It's crazy SGA is not on everybody's radar. I know I've said his name 100 times already, but I don't know if you could say he'd be most improved either. He had an amazing year last year. Oh, man. Markkanen would be maybe an interesting pick. Chet Holmgren might win that award. Is it possible Bradley Beal gets it? No, he did pretty good last year, even though he was hurt a little bit. I don't know. Chet Holmgren maybe most improved. He's probably a good bet. If he stays healthy, I think he probably wins it, I would imagine.
I'm going to say SGA, and I wouldn't put Chet Holmgren on there because he hasn't played an NBA game. But I would say SGA. I'm just really high on what they've done and then getting those pieces. I think that he is going to be the catalyst for that team going forward. Now, does that mean that he's going to have a massive difference in stats? No, I don't think so.
Right.
But I think the impact for the playoffs and just him being so young and having that stat line, I think it's kind of like how Giannis won Most Improved Player. It's not like he wasn't having absolutely great stats in the first place. He just got better ones.
I mean, he was, and also you got to realize SGA was All NBA first team last year, so it's just hard. Oklahoma would have to have a really good record too, right, for him to maybe get most improved. But that's why I put him in my top three. I mean, I think he's that good too. So I still can't believe people are they seem to be sleeping on him, even though he was All NBA last year, which is kind of crazy to say.
And what about best defensive player? Who would you say is the best defensive player in the West?
I'm going to go a little biased here. I'm going to go with my boy Josh Green. I got high hopes. He is a good defender, first of all. But if he starts and he hangs on to those minutes, I'm going to go a little bit of a wild card pick here. I'm going to say Josh Green. In terms of most improved defensive player, he's going to get a big boost in minutes. I think it's a legitimate contender or case for that award. So, he's got to produce a little bit on the offensive end, right, to keep those minutes too. But if he's allowed to play 30-plus minutes, 25-plus minutes, for sure, I think Josh Green's defense will get noticed.
I'm going to have to say I'm going to say Anthony Davis. I think he's going to –
Really?
Of course, this is barring him staying on the court.
Right.
That's a big issue. He's always been lauded as a great defensive player. The thing is that I think a lot of people have taken that off to the side and have just thought of him as this injury-prone guy that doesn't get anything done. So I think if he's able to stay on the court, I think he's got a real shot of being the best defensive player in the Western Conference. I also like Matisse Thybulle. I'm still high on him. But I don't think he's going to make as big of an impact to the success of his team as what most defensive player of the years do. Usually when you're a defensive player of the year, your team does fairly well.
Yeah.
So I don't think Matisse Thybulle would earn that award, because how can you be the best defensive player in the league when your team is last in the conference or last in the league? You know?
Yeah, I mean, Gobert might win his 4th defensive player of the year. Who knows, right?
Or him too. So let's get into where the teams are going to line up. I don't know if you have a specific list. I don't. I just have more of a playoff success generality thing, because I mean seeding does matter, but I don't have like this guy's going to be number 1, this guy's going to be number 2. But I do have playoff, play-in, and not in either. So who is not going to make the playoffs?
So I'll start with my 2 biggest disappointments, or guys who fall out, and I think they're pretty big picks, like they're pretty big predictions. I have the Clippers and the Grizzlies missing the playoffs as of right now. I know it might sound crazy. It probably seems crazy. Again, Memphis lost. Don't forget, Memphis lost Dylan Brooks too. I mean, again, it's like Jordan and Scotty. Like, for Morant to be able to run around and do what he does, you have to have a guy like Brooks who is, keeping some attention off of him, or taking a lot of that dirty work and doing it himself. He misses 25 games. Again, if they played 20 games and then he missed 25 games and they were kind of able to keep that continuity, that'd be different. But I think they come out the gate, they struggle mightily. Essentially are under 500 at least for the first 25 games. And I'm thinking maybe it could fester into and become a snowball after that. So that one, and the Clippers, just Kawhi struggling. Again, continuity and team chemistry is a big deal, much with my Memphis pick. So I got those 2 guys essentially missing the playoffs, being in the bottom 5 teams in the West, which that'd be the big shakeup. But then other than that, and I guess we could say bottom 5, because those are the ones who definitely missed the playoffs. I have Houston and San Antonio. I go back and forth with that last spot. But one makes it, one misses. I got Memphis and Clippers missing it, and I have Portland missing it as well.
All right. I can see what you're saying with that. For me, the teams that I have missing it, I have the Jazz, the Rockets, Portland, and like I was saying before, I'm just going to put them there. I'm going to put your Mavericks outside the playoffs. I don't see Kyrie and Luka working out. I think either they're going to have to blow it up in the midseason to save their playoff idea or wishes, or they're really going to have to figure it out, maybe fire Kidd, because it just sucked. It didn't work. I don't think it can work. And I think if they hold on to it, it's just going to make it worse.
Oh, if anything, I think they would fire Kidd before they got rid of Kyrie. If it got that bad, that's what I think they would do. Kyrie has a lot of that extrinsic value, right? That a lot of guys like him. It helps Dallas become more of like a free agency destination that other guys might want to go to. That is almost, worth his value on the court as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I could see it. I'm not a big fan of Jason Kidd. I just think his creativity on offense is non-existent, essentially, was really struggling, right? Like, I think basketball offense is one of the more basic concepts in terms of other sports trying to figure out how to manufacture points, right? But, so, I mean, I could see it, but I definitely think Dallas is one of those 4 play-in teams, so I definitely don't think they fall past that, but we will find out for sure.
Oh, I got one more team. New Orleans. I forgot. I don't think they're going to make it either. Even though they get streaky, I do not trust them staying healthy at all. So those are my 5.
Gotcha.
Who is going to make the play-in for you?
So my play-in, again, Houston or San Antonio makes that last spot in. Largely, this is contingent if they can mesh and play well and stay healthy with Zion. That's New Orleans. I got them sneaking in. And then I got the Lakers and Minnesota as my other two play-in teams. And I have Lakers and Dallas teetering on who's the last one in and who's the first play-in team. So I got them switching spots a little bit too.
Gotcha. I've got the Kings, I got Minnesota, and I got the Spurs, and I got the Grizzlies. No specific order. And some of these guys I could see, like I could see the Mavs making the play, and like I was saying before on our show, they just gotta get it together. But those guys, I think the rest of the guys, which I'll list off just for people listening, are definitely going to make the playoffs. So what are the rest of the teams that are absolutely going to make the playoffs for you?
So I got Denver number 1. My surprise pick for the Western Conference is I got OKC at the 2 or 3 slot. Them and Phoenix, I go back and forth. I think ultimately OKC gets another win or two over Phoenix. Again, Phoenix is one injury away from having 2 All-Stars in a junior high team, essentially. So you never know what could happen with that. I got the Kings in 4th, Golden State 5th, Dallas 6th, and again, I got LA in Dallas, kind of flipping that 6-7 spot. So,
yep, I got the Lakers, Warriors, Suns, Nuggets. Wait. Lakers, Nuggets, Suns, Warriors, Thunder, and I think it was the Clippers that I didn't say. I think Clippers make it at the back end of that.
Yeah, I missed one too. I missed Utah. I got Utah in that group with Houston and San Antonio fighting for that last play-in game.
Okay. Yeah, I got Utah out of it. So playoff wise, what about who do you think is going to make, just to skip some of these? Who do you think is going to make the Western Conference Finals, and who do you think is going to come out on top of it?
Well, my heart won't let me say anything other than Dallas. But if I had to be honest, I got Denver and OKC probably meeting up in the finals, or Denver and Phoenix. Again, Phoenix, none of those guys really have that much of a bad injury history. I know Beal a little bit, but he's still semi-young, and he came back and played. So I think he's good to go as far as I know. Durant's another year older. He's usually pretty healthy. Booker's usually pretty healthy. I think he got hurt, rolled his ankle though. That's not like a regular thing with him. So overall, those guys I think still have a couple good years left in them, especially Booker. But again, one of those guys goes down, or just they don't gel properly, and one of them is just struggling. They could go from 2nd or 3rd to 7th or 8th. So, but I think if I just had to kind of go with my gut, I say Phoenix is probably 2nd or 3rd, and they stay up there. So Denver versus OKC or Phoenix.
And who wins?
I got Denver going back. I just think Murray and Jokic and Gordon and those guys just too good. Phoenix,
yeah.
If things gel with Phoenix, they could be up there, right? Better, but that's a big what if.
So I don't have Phoenix going far in the playoffs at all. So since you had mentioned them, I got OKC going pretty far. But if I had to put people in the finals, obviously this is playoff seeding dependent. I would have the Nuggets, and I would like to see the Lakers go there, just because I would like to see LeBron make another run, just because he's that guy of this era. But outside of that, I would probably put the Warriors over them. I'd probably have a Warriors Nuggets finals, or Western Conference Finals. Obviously, it depends if they meet up with each other, and I still think the Nuggets come out on top, just like last time. I just don't think the Warriors can really deal with any sort of real size. Like, they're gonna get manhandled if they got a team that has size that can actually put it on them, and that's what the Nuggets are. So if they do match up, I don't think they're gonna do it, but I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think these the next year or two are going to be really interesting to see the old crop of guys go out. LeBron, the Warriors are kind of on their downslope now. They can still have another run or two in them. You never know. But, it just seems like next year or two, these guys who are 25 and younger, just going to be exciting, I think, to see where they end up, who does what franchises' futures are changed, right? Because of one or two guys sometimes. So, LeBron's getting old. It's Anthony Davis is probably on his way out too. I mean, there's a lot of, like you're saying, that LeBron's generation. He's only got a couple more years in him if he's gonna do it. There's a lot of guys like that. So Chris Paul, he's on his way out. It'll be interesting these next 2 years just to kind of see how things shake up.
Absolutely. Just because we're more or less done with this, I wanted to bring up something that I know you would find entertaining, maybe some of the people in the audience. I actually called into Tug's channel the other day, and he started talking to me. He let me talk.
Oh, yeah?
And the only bad thing was that my wife kept coming outside and talking to me. It was just like the worst timing whatsoever. So he was engaging with me. I was like, wow, he's actually talking to me.
Do you know it was you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It was me. But he said I was fat. And I'm bald. And I
don't mean to laugh at you,
but
he said it to me too, right? So it's just it's fucking.
I'm like, I know I know I'm bald, but you think I'm fat?
Yeah.
And, just being coy with him.
Oh my gosh, dude.
But yeah, it was funny. And then he hung up on me. Now, granted, I couldn't engage with him fully because my wife came out and kept asking me questions and stuff. It was really bad timing. My in-laws popped in driving from halfway across the country, so she was asking me to get some stuff done. It was just
Tug's
really
in on
terrible
it, bro.
timing.
It's just cahoots with Tug.
But he did. So on occasion I'll go look at his channel if I'm bored to see if he's live. But I'm not subscribed to him anymore because he doesn't want to be my friend, so yeah. I don't subscribe. And if I have to look it up.
I'm subscribed just because I'm keeping intel on my ops. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't do it. But my buddy has been messaging me because he thinks I've talked to him about him for years, so he's in on it. And I think it was yesterday because I went and I had done the call. And then the day later, somebody made a handle with my username on it. Michael Jordan fans are the best, and was in the audience. I don't know if it was one of his cronies or something, because they just were having me say stuff like, "Oh, Michael Jordan is, just way over the top stuff." And he didn't block the person, so he obviously knew it wasn't me, or he would have blocked them. You know what I mean? Because he's blocked me. So
that's kind of a good troll, to be honest, but. Yeah, I mean, it probably was him if it was the day after.
Yeah, and I think I looked because I went to go tag Tug on something because I had cut up one of the interviews we had done because I'm going through my interviews and cutting out the why you're a Michael Jordan fan. So I did it with his, and I went to go mention him, and it popped up 3 or 4 Michael Jordan fans are the best. So I feel like he's trying to ruin the algorithm for the name.
Oh, you think he's going around making more handles and shit and trying to dilute the name a little bit?
Because I don't know why else you would do that. It's not just one. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to have it really. I guess that's their mentality behind it. Because otherwise, I don't know why you would have so many. And they just started popping up after I just found out that they started popping up a few weeks ago. But because I haven't added him in a while. But it used
I'm gonna go check him out, bro. I'm gonna go check out those channels, see what I could. Did you see how recently they were made?
No, I didn't actually look that hard.
Okay.
But I was like, that's weird because it kept popping those up versus his.
I'm gonna do some investigating. I'm sure they're him.
Yeah. And it says Tim says Galaxy is a huge troll. Yes, he is. I think he is.
I think he's a troll, but he's serious. If that makes sense. I've said this earlier, maybe you didn't hear me or we weren't live yet, but I was saying how, I don't think that this is a shtick at the end of the day if you were to ask me, right? Because, A, he is very mentally up and down, right? So, like, I could definitely see this being real from his point of view. And then also, though, I was doing that video of you and him and the Michael Jordan fans are the worst or the best debate. And, if this really was a shtick, like a troll, right? You would want to be good at it, right? You would argue, I wouldn't say argue in good faith, but you would want to beat your opponent, right? And like come off as the bigger intellectual or whatever that he likes to do. But he doesn't. And it's like, you can't be putting a bad product out there and then also like this is my thing, and like you'd want it to be good, right? So I honestly think that that's really him for the most part. Like it really is. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Tim says NNB is far superior to Galaxy. I saw Galaxy ranting at NNB. Galaxy cannot deal with NNB's quality arguments at all. Galaxy is a loser.
It is funny if I call or someone mentions me, he will go for like 10, 20 minutes and just be like, this mother, like it's crazy, man. I definitely live rent free.
That's what he did, and my buddy said he recorded it.
Nice.
Because I stayed on it so I got off of it, and then he told me that he had been ranting about me still, and I went on it again to see, and he was still going, and then I don't know, man. And then he'll go and again, we were talking about it before. Like he'll say, "Well, I have all the answers. I have all the answers," and explain how he has all the answers when he could just say the answers.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's like, oh, this guy did me so dirty. And still, he won't tell me exactly what it was. So, like I had said, he had claimed, I'd gone over this before. But essentially, I'd asked him afterwards, or tried to ask him, and he just blocked me and never told me why. But essentially, he said he had a problem with you for things he thought that you did. But then why come on my channel and even associate? You know what I mean? It just kind of doesn't make any sense. But if he had a real problem with you, why did he even come on the channel to quote unquote debate you? But
yeah, and like why hold it against you so bad, right? Like, it has nothing to do with you. It still makes no sense.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to me. I thought, because we were like he had said, I'd go on his channel and we joke around and stuff. Even though he was a weirdo, I just thought it was, it would just be ridiculous, the stuff he was doing.
Yeah.
And I would go on. I thought it was fun, man. And then he decided that I wasn't his friend and I was a terrible person. And, the end of the world happened and we just couldn't associate anymore.
He takes it so personal, dude. He gets so... I don't get that at all, I just don't.
Yeah, but I just thought you'd find it funny that... Because I called in. I didn't say, I don't lie about it. And he was explaining this too when I did the voice changing thing. Well, he did claim that I recorded it and put it on the internet, and I didn't. I just did it for fun. He's like, he recorded it and put it on the internet.
I'll say I probably have a couple of hours of footage of Tug. I just didn't, nothing worth putting up. But yeah, there's definitely times. Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's funny as hell. It's just nothing but a joke now. You can't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to debate him again anytime because it's good content, and I'm not gonna lose. That's for sure. I would debate him again anytime, anywhere.
Yeah. Tim says Galaxy needs some mental support. I can imagine him ending up in a special house with special treatment. That dude is probably the funniest troll, but he don't want to be that funny, I guess. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just thought it was funny. He went and started lying that I was making videos about him too. It's like, why are you lying, man? I didn't do that.
The other thing about a troll too, and I would know I'm decent at trolling when I want to be, right, is that whenever you're trolling someone, right, and someone trolls you back, someone like me comes along, that's exactly what you want, right? You want, exactly. If you're just constantly shutting everyone down, that's boring. No one's listening to that. It's only if people come in And the reason why I don't think it's a troll or a shtick is because he thinks when he gets someone on that he can beat, he keeps them on. He like tries to argue him. But someone like me who's like, dude, literally he in one of those videos, he's like, you guys have to pay me to bring NB back on, right? Because they all want me to come on so bad. Because it's as entertaining as it is like a knowledgeable discussion, right? Like it's people love it, and it's like he won't play into it. If he was a troll, he would see me and be like, oh, I should let this guy come on more often, or like he would play into it. But he takes it so seriously. I just don't think it's a troll. I think he's serious like 90% of the time.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, this page's channel is in opposition to his.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, even though I'm not as and I'm not trying to sound like or say anything bad, but like when I troll, I feel like mine is a lot more subtle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like versus you'll go on there and you'll be over the top, and that's one way to do it. I'm not saying it's the wrong way to do it. I just kind of am like, yeah, Michael Jordan fans are the best.
Yeah, you kind of wade into it, and I'm more like, I don't always get a strike because I come in so hard, it'll shut me down. But if I come in hard and get a bite, it's great, right? Well, yeah, that's very true, though.
Yeah, I think in a way he hates me more. I don't know, because I think he finds you more annoying, but I think he hates me more. I don't know.
He probably just hates you more because you didn't pick him over me after maybe he thought y'all were friends, or like as if like you can't be friends with other people or something, right?
Well, that was the whole thing. Is like he wanted me to like be his pet essentially, and it's like, dude, I'm
like how like did he want you to do stuff for him?
Well, like I said, he wanted me to, report your page for putting the video up there. I'm like,
oh, yeah. Gonna... Oh, okay. Nah, fuck that. I thought you were talking about, like, he wanted to, like, make a Jordan video or do this or, like, something like that.
No.
Okay.
No, he, and like I said, like, for outside of him just being who he is, he was helpful for me at first and all of that sort of stuff for the most part. Obviously, he's... again, who he is, so it's kind of sometimes some of those it was kind of weird. And
I can't even believe he helped you to begin with, to be honest.
Yeah, and you can't, and it's hard because he is anonymous too, so you don't know what the deal is with him. So it's kind of weird. And then he's doxing people. He told me he'd give me all of these phone numbers of Michael Jordan fans, like randomly. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna cold call people. Like, oh, I got your number from. I would be mad.
He definitely takes people's numbers for the wrong reason. He has my number still. Whenever I first came across him, he was like, give me your number and call in and we'll do a debate. And then like that same conversation, we kept going. And I think he could tell that like he wasn't going to be able to shake me or like talk over me or like get around it. And he never had me on after that. Like never called me up. I'll have anyone on. Just give me your number. Okay, here's my number. Have me on. No, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, well.
And I mean, I guess the whole thing with him though is that he likes to control the pace. Like for me, like you obviously know how I do it. I give people times where and the other people don't talk, so people have the chance to talk. But when you have full control of the conversation, where I just go and I mute you, and I go and I put you backstage, or I just talk over you while you're muted and just pull out a narrative, like it's entertaining in its own way, but it's not a discussion. It's entertainment. It's just pure entertainment at that point. Like for the people that want to see Michael Jordan fans get stomped, or however you want to say,
right? 100% on that one, yeah, for sure.
But Tim says Galaxy the phone number collector. I think we gave him his 15 minutes. I mean, it's fun because he's funny, but I just thought it'd be funny that he called me bald and fat, and then he said that I loved him and that I wanted to have a relationship with him.
Yeah, the old call people gay. Oh, you got a big brain insult from Tug.
Like, what are you, 5?
Yeah, I know. You got me, dude. I wasn't gonna tell anybody till now, but you're right. You got me. You called me out.
Yeah, just out him. I'm coming out on your page, Tug.
yeah. Just want everyone to know in chat. That's funny.
Anyway, man, thanks for coming on. For those of you that don't know, we're going to do an Eastern Conference preview. Me and Robin, Sports and Fitness Rants, on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And on Sunday, we're going to do the full season preview, where it will be at least all of us three and possibly Judge, OG. I don't know if Rex is ever coming back. He commented, but he's not like acknowledging the emails. So I'm going to send another email out in our email chain and say for Judge and Rex, if they want to communicate, just to do it on Discord, and I'll give them the link.
Yeah, I love Rex, man. He's a good counter to everybody. I hope he comes back.
Yeah, I'm getting the vibes he doesn't want to, but it is what it is. If he does, he does. If not,
Yeah.
you know, it was fun while it lasted, Rex.
Yeah. It's all about the friends you made along the way.
It's all about family.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you, chat. Thanks, Tim, for coming. I think it was a fun time, good discussion. And yeah, until next time, Michael Jordan fans are the best.